is up, everyone? You are now locked into SpecTalk, my podcast geared toward high performers obsessed with personal excellence and gaining that 1% more to win every single day. I'm committed to bring you the badass real talk on what optimizes health and performance for entrepreneurs, executives, and athletes from all pillars of my high performance system. My name is Christina Specos, the founder of Specos Performance Systems. And here in Miami Beach area, I'm blessed to be here with the clientele that I have and the team that I have around me. And I want to bring you into my world. First thing, why me? Where have I come from? This first episode of the podcast is to tell you all about what drives my business, what drives my mission and vision, and how I can best serve. And of course, any questions you have, you can hit me up on social media. So let's go back in time. How did everything start? Well, I wanted to be a doctor. And in high school, when I found out that it was going to be 14 years to the end of med school to be able to operate on knees, I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. So it turns out I went the route of athletic training. I was really heavily involved in loving the human body and athletics and injuries. So I took care of a lot of injuries in my undergrad and pursued strength and conditioning and ultimately stuck with it. So layering on some massage therapy training and nutrition training, and of course now as a professional bodybuilder myself, I understand the world of high performance. My first clients in massage therapy and recovery strategies were about 5 different Philadelphia Eagles in the early 2000s. So it's a pretty cool opportunity for a 23, 24-year-old kid to be able to be in the homes of the top running backs and tight ends and defensive ends in the league, especially in Philadelphia. Moving on from there, working at Purdue University gave me an impeccable understanding of what it takes to morph and evolve a program that kind of was living in ancient times and then bring more of the high performance sports performance model with respect to technology and how we serviced our athletes. And of course now in the Miami Mecca here in the Magic City, I have the pleasure of working with people who also need to perform at their highest, which are entrepreneurs and executives here with tons of money and tons of pressure on their plate and busy days and teams and families and everything else that they work with, that they just don't have the time or the desire to think of the minutia that comes very easily to me after 23 years of practice. So from nutrition to mindset. In fact, we're going to go over all the pillars today because this is a big thing with a lot of people, whether you are in that upper echelon of a high earning, high performing environment, or you're just 9 to 5ing it and it's stressful. We all need to perform physically and as healthfully as possible from the area of health, movement, and of course, everybody wants the aesthetic. This encompasses everything from training to nutrition and more. So let's go over the pillars of what is the foundation of my program and what I believe in. Mindset is number 1. And in future episodes, we're going to dive in a little bit more in detail with each one of these things. But the first pillar is mindset, okay? Mindset is the thing that gets you from point A to point B, and every time you get from a point A to point B in your respective goal, I truly believe that mindset needs to be reevaluated, and mindset needs to also be reevaluated in terms of goals. What is the progress? Where are you going once you achieve a goal? A lot of people think that health and wellness and even the aesthetic has an end game. Unfortunately, to be the badass with this, the end game is death. And if you're literally working for the end game, I would rather you change that and say I'm working for the best possible longevity, the best possible performance every single day, because this is why I work with the 1%ers of the world, whether they are athletes or entrepreneurs and executives. These are people that have a mindset of not just money. It's about being their best, seeking out the best knowledge, the best professionals to work with, the best biohacking, the best training, the best rehab and solutions. All of these things make my clients at the 1% of the 1%, because let's face it, you can make money, but your mindset could be, well, whatever, I'm just going to stay fat and unhealthy, it doesn't matter. The people that are constantly striving to be 1% better, Those are the 1% of the 1%. So the mindset, no matter who you are, whether you're there financially or career-wise or whatever, athletically yet, or you're in pursuit of that, the mindset can be the same whether you are in pursuit, trying to drop 150 pounds, or are you trying to keep this abdominal shreddedness, so you could say it that way, and then just keep getting better. Maybe it's gaining more muscle. Maybe it's gaining more confidence. Mindset for me is such a huge topic, which is why it's the base of my pyramid of how I developed my system. And it is the number one pillar before starting anything. Now, mindset is also connected very deeply to what I believe to be cultural, lifestyle, and of course your social surroundings, how you grew up. Yes, there are some socioeconomic things that can shape your mindset, but at the end of the day, mindset needs to be the first pillar you work on before you even get to my next pillar, which is nutrition. And I'm going to tell you why. This is all interlinked. Nutrition is something that people get stopped by their mindset because nutrition is cultural, it's social, it might have a stigma to it, whether you drink or you don't drink, whether you're a socialite or you're not, whether you host business meetings or parties. And there's a lot of temptation to do and consume things that may not be the best thing for your body and your performance. Have we all made mistakes? Yes, this is not to, demonize anybody that makes mistakes, but I will say, and I will go out on a limb and say you have to reevaluate your choices if 5 nights out of the week you're trashed and you just can't perform, but you have a lot of money so you don't think it matters. That's the difference between I'm in an upper echelon of an economic bracket and I'm in a performance bracket that's top tier. The mindset of that performance person. And unfortunately, nutrition is what falls a victim to parties, social events, holidays, cultural. You cannot tell me growing up as an Italian that as a kid, I grew up around carbs, right? Pasta, tons of desserts, cannolis. I mean, everything that I know and love as a kid. I had to rewire my brain to say, what is my goal and what do I want most? And it's not to say I abandoned my culture. It's not to say that Italians are bad because mangia, we eat. It's to say that when you shift from an old part of you and you shed that part and you reframe your mindset, maybe for me to get to 8% body fat as an IFBB pro bodybuilder, I had to get rid of the cannolis and the pasta. I had to curtail the wine and all of these things. I couldn't do what my typical Italian upbringing brought me, but that is the mindset behind nutrition. So when a client comes to me, whether they're virtual or in person, we have to have this talk. It's like the birds and the bees of working with a high performance coach. It's something that when you understand that it's not a prison, that is a choice. The people that I work with, this is a first world problem. We choose to live this way. So it's not a prison to say, oh, I can't eat that. It's no, I don't eat that because it does not make me feel optimal. It does not put me in the best mood. I do not have the energy or the mental capacity to make great decisions when I continually make poor choices. This is not about good food versus bad food. This is about the choice that gets you where you want to go in the most nutrient-dense, antioxidant and vitamin and mineral rich, and low inflammatory foods. They also help keep your body composition favorable, which fuels the next pillar of my pyramid, training. If you don't have your mindset right and you have a clear goal, if you don't have your nutrition to fuel your training is going to suffer. And unfortunately for people go off of whatever program is out there, and I get it, programming and training exercises and all sorts of fancy stuff that I had the pleasure and honor of working with to get my top tier athletes to jump just that much higher and to stay that much healthier at the peak tail end of their season when we're in the NCAA tournament and we're going for the best possible shot at the Elite Eight and beyond. That's great. But most people don't need that kind of detailed training. They need to understand that effort and intensity and balanced programming and taking care of injuries and monitoring their posture and creating core strength and mobility is something that needs to be taken care of first before all the fancy schmancy stuff. So I could talk about, German volume and all sorts of other training techniques, French contrast and all of this other stuff. But that's not something that you necessarily need if you're falling apart at the seams and just can't get it together. You won't get it together if your nutrition isn't right. There's a saying that we used to have, and shout out to my first mentor ever when I was 19 years old. You cannot out-train a poor diet, and you get what you train for. So just kind of let that sink in as you're following this journey through the pillars of my pyramid as to what this looks like when it comes to fruition. Now, if you don't have those three things outlined and set in motion and working, the next pillar is really hard. It's called accountability. I can only hold my clients accountable for what they commit to. So if they turn the corner, or when they turn the corner, because everyone in a high profile or high performance kind of environment, even if it's the person that sits at their computer 10 to 12 hours a day on Slack with 300 employees, they understand the value of setting a goal and achieving it. So what I basically do is outline, and I help them outline their KPIs or their key performance indicators for their life, because they're already familiar with that with their business. Pro athletes already know what moves the needle, what recovers them. I've been in the homes of some of the best NFL athletes that have hyperbaric chambers in their house and oxygen tanks and infrared saunas and all sorts of things that they know that they need to use. Those are their KPIs. Those are their protocols for making their business, AKA their bodies, run optimally. So they found the holes and they've plugged them. Accountability in this phase of training, when we're going through those 4 pillars, is saying, okay, what are the roadblocks that prevented you from eating well on the road when you're at that conference, or being in the stadium and they didn't have something that you could eat because maybe you have a dietary preference or some sort of whatever allergy or intolerance? What are things that we can do to make sure you stay on target when you're traveling across the globe, when you're going cross country? Accountability also for things like sleep. I know a very well-known sleep professional who used to work with a famous basketball team. And when they would travel from East Coast to West Coast, there was a system to get them to not skip a beat with their sleep. She worked extensively on that so their performance didn't drop. And it's something that, with the advent of a lot of the companies that I subscribe to and I work with, Oura Ring and 8 Sleep and all of that, it's something that becomes very, very important in your metrics to understand that this is something you need to be accountable to, in addition to the basics. So this is a lot for people to really take in when they are running companies and focused on, families and brand deals and sponsorships and commercials and all of those kinds of things that come with the territory of high-level athletes, CEOs, and entrepreneurs. However, as a high-performance health agent and performance agent, I am the one that simplifies that for them. However, it goes back to accountability. If we don't lay down the system of those first 3 pillars of this pyramid, what are you going to be held accountable to? Now, don't get overwhelmed, because this is just going to sound like I'm lecturing, but it can become very simple, because this is a journey that is ever evolving, which takes me to the final pillar of the pyramid: setting new goals. Future goals, long-term vision. I don't look at coaching as like a 2-month transformation or a 3-month program. Like the first 3 months are literally just setting the foundations, because think about how many years, like let's just say you're 45 years old. Think about how many years you've had poor habits and how long it's going to take you to reverse those and slowly change. Old habits, they die hard. So it's really, really important to understand that this is the long game. Someone who wants to make it to, Wimbledon or something like that, they know they're not going to pick up a tennis racket and be there in a week. This is the long game we're playing. And this is the same thing for anyone else that is running a business, growing a business, expanding a business. The goals and the markers that help you achieve your physical and mental performance as well are things that you work on over time. And shout out to the 1% of the 1% that I work with, because they embody that. They want a professional that knows how to integrate everything, and they'll stop at nothing to stay strong. So I hope that this pyramid and these pillars that are the foundation of my system resonate with you, whether or not you are in this category. It is something to aspire to at the level that you can handle. It all starts with mindset, and in future podcasts, we're going to get into that in depth about what makes a killer, badass mindset, even when you think things are going wrong around you. How do you stay strong, stay consistent? Because at the end of the day, consistency wins. At the end of the day, what are you staying consistent for? What is your why? As commonplace as that sounds to say, why are you doing all this? Why do you want to look good? Why do you want to perform well? Why do you want to make 7 figures or 8 figures or whatever? Why do you want a jet? Why do you want to make it to, the NBA finals? What is it that really drives you? And when you dig each level deep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and beyond. There's an exercise we can do called the 7 levels deep. You really get to the deep why, which uncovers things from the past that we have to let go of. I know it sounds like it's getting really psychological, but when you sit down and you think about a lot of these things, if this podcast and this message hits you and you sit down with these things and you say, where are the holes in mine? This is something that you can reflect on and understand that it's going to be a lot deeper than just, I want abs. It's going to be a lot deeper than I want money to buy nice things. So I hope this resonates with you. Where you can find me is on Instagram at Christina Specos. You can find me on Facebook at the same thing. I barely go on Twitter, but please reach out, Christina at ChristinaSpecos.com if you have any questions, and stay tuned for the next episode.